Hey, parents. So today I want to talk about control. And one of the things I always say is kids are always walking around with two buckets. One is labeled attention and the other is labeled control. And really, everyone is walking around with these two buckets. But they need those both of those buckets to be filled up every single day. You could also call them belonging and significance. They're the two greatest human needs. And I want to talk about the control bucket because the truth is our kids' control bucket can get really low, and sometimes we don't even realize that. Because I just read recently that one of the number one factors for human happiness is autonomy or agency, meaning that you have the ability as an individual to impact your world or situation, that you have a degree of control. And I personally just ran into a situation where I didn't feel like I had agency in the situation. And it really helped me think about what it's like for our kids. So, very recently, the post office delivered a package I ordered online to the wrong address. And they said that they had delivered it here, but they hadn't. And so I had to go through this whole crazy process of calling, submitting online forms, being on hold for hours. I finally, I got an email that said, "Oh, we delivered to the wrong address and we couldn't get it back. Sorry." And I thought, well, that's not okay. I paid for that package and you made a mistake. So I was back on the phone again and on the phone for a couple hours and finally got in touch with a manager who said, "Oh, you need to write a letter to this person," which I thought was crazy that I had to write a letter to the post office about a situation. But I wrote the letter. And then 2 days ago, I got a letter back that said, "Oh, we got your letter. Here's a form you have to fill out." And it just felt like I am stuck in this process that I don't have a say over. I can't make it work. I don't get to impact this in any way. I'm just being kind of dragged along by it. And it really made me start to think about our kids because that is most of their reality. They don't have a lot of control over their day, especially if you have school age kids. Think about it. They have to show up at school a certain time. They have to eat lunch at a certain time. They don't get a say over that. Their schedule is sometimes not. They don't even know what it's going to be, or sometimes it doesn't work for them. For example, for my daughter Imogen, her class does math in the afternoon. So they do it after lunch and recess and all of that. Well, Imogen struggles with math. That's not her most natural subject. And by the afternoon, her brain is really tired and she's overstimulated and she's not at her best. And she would probably do a lot better if she could decide to do math first thing in the morning rather at the end of the day. But she doesn't get to have a say in that. And that's a lot of what their day is like. Think about dinner time. You don't make yourself food that you don't want to eat, but very often kids get handed a meal that we feel like, but they may not like. And they're told to eat so many bites of it, or, it becomes a struggle. And their control bucket gets really low. And when their control bucket gets low, that's when you start to see things like power struggles and back talk or passive resistance or, ignoring and all of that, simply because they're not consciously going, "I need more control, so I'm going to act out in this way," but they're trying to find a way to feel like they have agency in their life, and so they're going about it in a way that isn't very helpful. So we want to teach them the life skill of agency, of autonomy, that they have the ability to decide for themselves, that they have the ability to make an impact in the world. And so the challenge I want to pose for us as parents this week is to think through, how can you fill up your kids' control bucket? And maybe it's something like you let them pick dinner once a week. They get to help plan the menu. It could be asking them what they want the weekend plan to look like, or helping them come up with their own homework plan rather than you telling them when homework needs to be done. It could be coming up with a chore plan. Even deciding maybe, if they're old enough, you can work on bedtime routine. If they're young, it might be that you're starting to let them pick out their own outfit and you just put away the things that aren't an option, right? So there's no shorts even out for them to pick for winter time, but anything that is out, they're free to pick, even if it doesn't match. Anything that you can do to help them feel like they have some control, because there's a lot of areas where they don't get a say and they don't get to have agency in that moment, but we want to teach them their own power and their own ability to make decisions and to decide for themselves. So think through maybe some areas And if you have older kids, you can sit down and maybe brainstorm with them some areas where maybe they feel like they would want to see something be different, and be open to their way. It might not be your way, but it could be a perfectly fine way to do it. So think about control bucket and how you might be able to fill up your control bucket, because your kids control bucket, because when you do that, they feel like they're winning and their happiness goes up, which means the house will be happier, which will mean that you will be happier. And that is a win-win for everyone. So there's your parenting for the win tip this week. Think about control and agency and how you might be able to hand that back over to your kids.